back, everyone, to the pre-Pesach learning program here at the Young Israel Lawrence-Cedarhurst. I'd like to thank our corporate sponsor, Bernathen Rosenberg, as well as our daily sponsor, Dr. Asher and Aliza Diamond, in honor of Rabbi Baruch Kleinman and Ephraim Diamond's tireless work in bringing Torah to the shul and to the greater Five Towns area. Today we have the zchus of hearing a chabura from Moshe Sokoloff, someone that I was introduced to a number of years ago. He actually is here Tuesday nights at the Young Israel Woodmere, and on Sunday mornings giving a shir at the Young Israel Woodmere. Somebody who many years ago was a diamond in the rough, where somebody came and heard one of his shirim and said, we got to get him out here. And since then, Moshe and I have had a nice relationship, somebody that I can turn to as a peer, somebody that I can ask halacha shel in almost any topic, and he seems to be holding in the sugya. Somebody that I've gleaned a lot of information from, and I learned a lot of Torah from, and it's my zchus to introduce.
Thank you, Rabbi Kleinman. It's a zchus to be here. It's a beautiful program that is out of the shul here. I had the privilege of being here many times. I've been invited many times to the Hashkalah in Shabbos morning under Joel Mel. He's invited me here many times. It's always a privilege to be here Shabbos morning. Unfortunately, I can't come as much as I'd like to. I have responsibilities in my shul in Queens, but it's always a privilege and a pleasure to be here. And I thank you, Rabbi Kleinman, for inviting me back. This is such a beautiful program. No better way to start a Yom Tov of Pesach than getting ready for the Yom Tov with learning and in-depth learning and Haggadah and Chaburas. So it's really a zchus for me to be here this morning. I put out a lot of my comments. I don't want to scare anyone that there's 4 pages. Doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't mean we're going to get to everything. Doesn't mean we'll get to most of it. Consider it a Pesach present. If you'd like to take it home, you can discuss it over your Pesach Yom Tov. I want to discuss today a topic that you've heard about yesterday, from what I understand. I want to go back a step, and I want to discuss, every Pesach Seder has that one person at the Seder who's rushing everyone with the clock. Like it's almost chatzos. Like that chatzos guy at the Pesach Seder. Everyone's got one of those. Some of them have more than one of those, right? That chatzos fanatic who's obsessed with the clock, and he's watching and he's counting. And I want to get to today, like, what do we have to really be focused about and why? What exactly is chatzos needed? When, which parts, and why, and things like that. And then if there's time, we'll try to get to halacha l'maisa. But we have to start off, we'll try to go as fast as we can because there's a lot of sources, we'll just very quickly mention the Gemara in Pesachim, very important Gemara. There's a Mishnah Pesachim. The Mishnah Pesachim says that after chatzos on the night of Pesach, if you touch the carbon Pesach, it's metames yadayim. The Mishnah is not talking about Matzah, the Mishnah is talking about the actual carbon Pesach. And the Mishnah says if you were to touch the carbon Pesach after chatzos, after 1 a.m., you'll be metames yadayim, your hands will become tamei. So the Gemara says, why are your hands tamei? So the Gemara says, because it's nicer. We know for carbon, these parashas that we're learning right now, that when the carbon is left over, it's a lot of time. So the carbon becomes nicer. And it's metames yadayim. So the Gemara says, who's the Tana of this Mishnah? Why would your hands become impacted? So the Gemara says, because the Mishnah is going like Belaz ben Azariah. Who's the Belaz ben Azariah? So this is where we get exposed to the famous Machlokes Tanoim. And this appears in numerous places in Shas. Machlokes Tanoim between Belaz ben Azariah and Rabbi Akiva. Belaz ben Azariah has a drasha that you can only eat the carbon Pesach until chatzos. Up till and not past chatzos. You have a time limit. The carbon Pesach can only be eaten until chatzos. And the Gemara struggles to understand why. So Rabbi Belaz ben Azariah tells us in source number 1, it's Gzeira Shava, a very interesting Gzeira Shava. What's Gzeira Shava? It says in the pasuk, "Va'achlu es habasa b'layla hazeh," you should eat the meat at this night. What's night? How do we define night? So in the secular world, the night starts, when it gets dark till 12 a.m. and 12 a.m. starts the new day. How does it work in Judaism? So Rabbi Belaz ben Azariah says, no, night over here means up until chatzos. How does he know that? So he brings another pasuk. Hashem says, I will pass over the land of Egypt at this night. Says the Gemara, just like over there by Makas Becheres, it was at chatzos. So too, this has to be at chatzos also. So according to Belaz ben Azariah, the whole way we know that the carbon Pesach must be eaten before chatzos is because Makas Becheres happened at chatzos. Now the obvious kasha that we have to get to is, when exactly did Makas Becheres happen? Kachatzos. It was like a second event. So it should come out that I should have about a second to eat my carbon Pesach.
Moshe Rabbeinu said
Kachatzos.
When the Baruch Hu knew precisely.
Right, but do we know when it happened is the question.
You never know. Even
right.
So
we're going to have to try to figure out how we're supposed to work with this. Right. But Rabbi Akiva has a different drasha. The Shittas of Rabbi Akiva is Rabbi Akiva says, no, you have until the next morning. So the Gemara, Rabbi Akiva holds you have until the next morning. So now we have machlokes tonight. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you can eat the Korban Pesach only up till Chatzos. According to Rabbi Akiva, you can eat it up until the next morning. So, says the Gemara, if I have a Mishnah Pesachim that says that after Chatzos it's Metames Yadayim, if the Mishnah says in Pesachim that after Chatzos the meat becomes contaminated, it must be that this Mishnah is going like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Because according to Rabbi Akiva, the meat can't become contaminated, I'm allowed to eat it. I'm allowed to eat it until the morning. Must be, says the Tan, says the Gemara, this Mishnah only is aligned according to the Shita of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Now, I'm focusing on this for a reason. Because it comes out, we have a Mishnah Pesachim that says clearly like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, which means that the halacha is most likely like him. So if the halacha is like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, so you have good reason maybe for wanting to speed up your Seder to get to something or some point of the Seder before Chatzos. If you hold like Rabbi Akiva, so why is everyone rushing? Rabbi Akiva says you have a whole night. Why are you rushing people? You have a whole night. Take your time. Take your time. Go slow. No rush. Elamai must be that we assume in our head that we pass like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Now, the Rashbam over here is very important, but we're going to have to just say it outside because due to some time constraints over here, is that the Rashbam has a kasha, which all the Rishonim have. How does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah read a pasuk in the Chumash? It says in the Chumash, Lo yisasir mimenu ad boker. Do not leave over from the Korban Pesach until the morning, and if you leave over in the morning, you burn it. I don't understand. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, what do you mean don't leave over until the morning? You're not even allowed to leave it over after Chatzos. How does he read a pasuk in the Chumash? Pasuk Parshas Boy. Parshas HaChodesh, we read it a few weeks ago. It says in the Chumash, Lo yisasir mimenu ad boker. Don't leave it over until the morning. What do you mean don't leave it? I can't even leave it over past Chatzos. Forget the morning. And then it says in the pasuk, and in the morning you should burn it. What happens between Chatzos and the morning according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah?
Shlom Mishnei Yom Malayla Echad.
Right.
So technically, that second night before there's a mitzvah to burn it.
Oh, so by other kabbalah he's not going to find that. So it could be over here also. That when it says in the Torah, there's this in between time. There's like this downtime. The problem is the Achronim have a question. We're not going to get into this today. Is that it comes out according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. When would you burn the noiser? The next morning. The next morning is the first day Yom Tov. Mishnah in the second parak of Shabbos says we don't burn kachim. So frek the Achronim are Sameach asks kasha, Chaim asks the kasha. Many Achronim asks kasha. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who reads the pasuk, it's going to come out. You're going to be sorry from kachim b'Yom Tov. Now, one of the answers that the Achronim give is that this pasuk of Parshas Boy was only that generation, not Ladeiris. That Enachlami Chaga Pesach Ladeiris, you wouldn't do this. That was only that generation when they left Mitzrayim. It's a big chiddush. We'll come back to this a little bit later. But that's what the Rashbam points out. Now, in the middle of this long Rashbam, he has a kasha. The Rashbam says, the Olam, I'm sure, knows that there's a big discussion at the beginning of Mesechus Brachas. Whenever you have a Zman that's at a certain time, where the rabbi's nervous that people are going to dilly-dally. We as a Jewish people, we're guilty of procrastinating. Right? Believe it or not, if you don't believe me, ask your wife, she'll tell you it's true, right? We're guilty of procrastinating, right? Take out the garbage, I'll do it tomorrow, we do it next week, right? So if the Torah said do something by this time, the rabbi said, you know what, if we give you this time, you're not going to get to it. We got to stop a little bit earlier. So the question that the Rashbam deals with, as does the Mordechai and others, is when according to Rabbi Akiva that I can eat matzah till the next morning. Was there any rabbinic involvement to stop me earlier? Was there a rabbinic involvement that said, listen guys, I don't trust you. If you can eat matzah up until Alois Hashach, you might never eat it until after Alois Hashach. We're nervous. So the Rabbanan came and said, you know what, even though technically you can do it the whole night, we want you to get it done before Chatzos. So the Rashbam says that it's a possibility. It may be according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah that would be true, but then we have a question. If according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah it's true that I have to start beating already at Chatzos, according to Rabbi Akiva, I have to start beating at Chatzos, so why can't Rabbi Akiva be the Tan of our Mishnah? The Mishnah says that after Chatzos it becomes nicer. Good, it becomes nicer. What does that mean in English? It's nicer. Does that mean I can't eat it anymore? Or does that mean that it's just not kosher to do the mitzvah? What does it mean? So the Mordechai says, if it's asur midrabanan for consumption after Chatzos, it wouldn't become nicer. Says the Mordechai, number 3, that even if it's true that the rabbis want you to stop eating it by Chatzos, but even though Maker Adin, you can go till the next morning, but rabbinically you have to stop at Chatzos, it would not be enough to make it nicer. Therefore, according to Rabbi Akiva, it doesn't stem with the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that after Chatzos, it's Metames Yadayim. Why is it Metames Yadayim? Because it's nicer. Nice. But according to Rabbi Akiva, it's not nicer. What do you mean I'm not allowed to eat after Chatzos? You're right, that's our Chokah Ba'alma. Doesn't make it nicer. Even though I'm not allowed to eat it after Chatzos rabbinically, it wouldn't turn it into nicer. Therefore, says the Mordechai, Rabbi Akiva can't be the Tana of the Mishnah, because even if you hold, according to Rabbi Akiva, you have to stop by Chatzos because of rabbinic harchaka, it would still not make it nicer, it would still not passel the chefza of the carbon. Okay, let's take a look at Boisad Taisvis for a second. Number 6. We're jumping around, but we got to get to a lot. So let's see Taisvis. Taisvis Brachas Daf Tes This sugya, Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Akiva appears, as far as I know, 4 places in Shas. It appears in Psachim, it appears in Megillah, it appears in Zvachim, and it appears a little bit in Brach and Stav Test. That's where it comes up, this machlokes. So Taisus has a great kash. Frek Taisus number 6. Vim Toima. Heichi Motzi L'meima Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah ad Chatzos. How could Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah possibly say you can only eat up until Chatzos? Voksim, it says in the pasuk, Lo Yisasimu Menu ad Boiker. The mashma ad Boiker Mia Motzi Lachli. The kash we mentioned before. Asks Taisus, how does Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah read a pasuk in the Chumash? It says in the Chumash, don't leave over until the morning. The implication is, up until the morning I can leave over. But according to Elazar ben Azariah, I stop eating it at the Chatzos. The Yeshloimer answers Taisus, the Motzi L'meima. The Hachi Kamar, listen to the way Taisus reads the pasuk. Lo Yisasu Dovar. The Torah is saying, don't dilly-dally, don't do things that will make it that you didn't eat it before Chatzos, and now that you didn't eat it before Chatzos, you missed the cutoff point, and if you missed the cutoff point, now the carbon has to sit until the next morning. Because if it's not consumed before Chatzos, you can't eat it any further. You can't even burn it, because you only burn it during the day. So Taisus understood this pasuk according to Elazar ben Azariah as the Torah is telling us, don't be late in doing this mitzvah, because if you will cause it to be left over, hence causing it to be burnt the next morning. Now, how many of you think that this is a very stretch in the pasuk? You're in good company, because if you look in the Ar Sameach, the Ar Sameach writes, Dochuk Tuva. It's a big stretch. Showed something I never knew about the Ar Sameach. Maybe everyone knows this, I was the only one who didn't know this. They came out last year with a Haggadah, beautiful Haggadah, written by commentaries of people who never had children. It's unbelievable. You can get it today in the swamp. A beautiful Haggadah. It's a beautiful sefer, a beautiful Haggadah. I forget the name of the author. He put together all different shtickle Torahs from all Gedolim who never had children. Wow. So this can be their legacy. He has pieces of Sarshnira in there even. It's a beautiful, beautiful Haggadah. With biography, it's a beautiful, beautiful Haggadah. So in that Haggadah, he brings down from the Ar Sameach. So we quote Ar Sameach. We think Meshech Chachma, he must have had 52 kids or something, 8,000 grandchildren. No, never. And Meir Simcha Davinsky had one daughter. She got married while he was alive, and both her and her husband died while he was still alive, without any children. Wow. I never knew that about Ar Sameach. It was a shock to me. We talk about Ar Sameach, the Meir Simcha Davinsky, the great Gadol. Unfortunately, he never had any.
We assume a dynasty.
We assume there's a dynasty. There was no dynasty. Unfortunately, he had this one daughter. Her name was Asnas. He had this one daughter. She got married, Baruch Hashem, but both her and her husband died without any children, and therefore there was no legacy. So Meir Simcha, unfortunately, made it into this Haggadah, because unfortunately he had no living children that could continue to his legacy. So it's kedai to say over Torah from the Ar Sameach, even more so. One of those great Gedolim, unfortunately, did not leave a beautiful legacy. So the Ar Sameach has an unbelievable idea about the Korban Pesach here, changing their whole outlook on the Korban Pesach. Says the Ar Sameach, how do we look at the Korban Pesach? Right? Those of us who do Daf Yomi know better than I probably about the Karbonis, a little bit Chumash Rashi, right? We know there's a lot of different Karbonis, and they're categorized. How do you categorize a Korban Pesach? What's the rules to a Korban Pesach? So most of us assume Korban Pesach, league on its own. It's its own category, its own rules. Says Dar Samech, not so. He says a Korban Pesach is a Korban Pesach with a twist. It's a Korban Pesach with an additional chumrah or kula to it, but it follows the regular rules. What does that mean, says Dar Samech? That every other Korban, there's a mitzvah that the Korban should be consumed because it's nicer. Someone has to eat it. But it doesn't have to be the Bailam. It could be someone else. The Korban Pesach is unique. It must be consumed by the owner. Says the Ar Sameach, unbelievable chiddush. He says the following. He says that according to Elazar ben Azariah, it comes out like this, that until Chatzos, we each have a mitzvah to eat from the Korban Pesach. That's a chiv, what we call on the Gavra, to use the Yeshiva Shalingo, right? The chiv on the Gavra, every Jew must eat from Korban Pesach. Now what happens after Chatzos? So most of us assume, according to Elazar ben Azariah, after Chatzos, it's over. Says the Rebbe Simcha, no, after Chatzos, it becomes like a regular Korban Shlomim. And it can be consumed by anyone. Unbelievable. Therefore,
outside of the Chabura,
that's right.
Outside of the New York.
That's right. It loses the Shem Korban Pesach, and it turns into a Shlomim.
It's a generic.
Correct. It becomes a generic Korban. Therefore, Zokta Meir Simcha, everything's Geshmak now. When it says in the Chumash, Lo Yisasiru Menu Ad Boiker, it's not true. Because up till the morning, it could be consumed not as a Korban Pesach, but as a Korban Shlomim. Till Chatzos, it's a Korban Pesach. Oh, Gavaldik. That's the bomb kasha. If this Ar Sameach is true, 1 second. So why is it Metames Yadayim after Chatzos? It's okay for consumption. I can eat it as a Shlomim. So why is it Metames Yadayim? I say, Ar Sameach asks it on himself. Baruch Hashem. He doesn't make us do all the dirty work. He gives us the answer. We'll get to it in a second. But I just want to think about this for a second. It comes out of Mordik Chiddush according to Ar Sameach, that a carbon Pesach is like a dual carbon. Till Chatzos is your chance to do the mitzvah. And then you must eat a kazayis, he calls it like a kafta de gavra. It's a chi of gavra, you must eat a kazayis before. And after Chatzos, you lost that mitzvah. And after Chatzos, what happens is, it's like a regular carbon. If you can be consumed, it can't be consumed. If not, it's nicer, and everything works out very nice.
It sort of has it's latent in it, because a nicer carbon Pesach, right? You have money that you sort of set for a carbon Pesach, and was left over before it was shechted, so it transforms into Ashlam.
So there you go. That's where you get it from, obviously.
Right.
That there is built into a carbon Pesach is the ability to also be a carbon Shalom. I freked Ar Sameach on himself. 1 second. This is such a geschmackish to Torah. It fits so nicely into the pasuk. How do you learn the Mishnah Pesachim now? Stated the Mishnah Pesachim that after Chatzos it becomes nicer. Why does it become nicer? Says the Ar Sameach beautiful. He says because be'etzem every carbon after it's a lot of time should become nicer. Over here we need to put up major barriers because if after Chatzos we need to give it some rules because we want to make sure you don't lose out on the mitzvah of Achilas Carbon Pesach. So if we treat this like a regular shalom is not Matami Sedaim after Chatzos. Why not Zakta Ar Sameach? Because we're not so concerned. We're not so worried. But over here there's a lot to lose. If you're going to dilly-dally after Chatzos, you'll lose a mitzvah. You won't get the mitzvah. And it won't be nicer because you have until the next morning. But you'll lose the opportunity to do a mitzvah. Therefore, says the Ar Sameach, that's why they were Metames Yadayim. Not because they were worried about Noiser. They were worried more about you losing out on the mitzvah. That's why they were Metames Yadayim, in order to make sure you eat the Carbon Pesach before Chatzos.
Even though it's really just a chukkah.
Right.
Technically. Unless it's not a chukkah.
No, it's, again, according to Moshe Sokoloff, he's saying, why don't we make this a chukkah by all karbanos? He says, because by all karbanos we weren't so worried. But over here, there's what to lose. Because according to Moshe Sokoloff, if you don't eat that kazayis of the Carbon Pesach, you lost out on a mitzvah.
Also, it's a chi of kares.
And there's a right. There's more.
That's
That's correct. We're very nervous, and therefore we wanted to do it.
It comes out there, chaka then is the yadayim, it's not the what.
That's right. It's a din to be mitamit on some level to get to you to make sure you eat it earlier. That's what comes out.
Like
Okay. Huh?
Like Kisvei Kodesh, to be with Tami Yadayim.
Correct. The Tom of Thomas Yedah.
Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says the Sedukim hold Zifrei Homeros holy, but we hold the Sefer Torah holy.
Mm-hmm. Right. So whatever the rules are going to be for Metames Yadayim, it's going to be over here also. Okay, now we really got to get into the sukkah. This was just a shtickle spices. Now we got to get into sorry.
How do you eat it as a shlomen if it's the time of your diet?
How do you touch it? Yeah.
Good. So you'll have tumas issues, and you have to get around that. But I say, you're right. The point is, it's true. There's a din that's Metames Yadayim, but it doesn't make it now that it's not fit for consumption.
Yeah, how do you get it?
You have to get around it. Logistical problems you have to get around.
It's a technical problem.
Logistical problems we'll call it. But I want to get everybody. See, that was just for fun. Now we got to get into the Ikar Sugi over here. If you jump with me for a second, we'll get to the Rambam Shita because that's what everyone wants to talk about. How do we paskin? Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Azai, and Rabbi Akiva. Who do we paskin like? According to Rabbi Elazar and Azai, you only have up to Chatzos. According to Rabbi Akiva, I have a whole night. Who do we paskin like? So there's a big discussion in the Mishnah. And one of the reasons why it's such a discussion is because we have a lot of different Mishnayos and Shas that give off different implications to this question. We have a Mishnah Pesachim that we just read together that says clearly, according to Elazar ben Azariah, the Mishnah Pesachim. For those of us who say Karbanis, we have another Mishnah in Zvachim. What does it state in the Mishnah in Zvachim? Einei Nechol. What does it say? HaPesach Einei Nechol. Elad Chatzos.
Right.
So we have a Mefurish Mishnah in Zvachim. Or some people say it's Mefurish Pasuk, it's Mefurish Karbanis in the Siddur, okay. Mefurish Atzkol, right? It's really a Mishnah in Zvachim, but okay, good. So we have a Mishnah in Zvachim that says, Viter, like a Belaz ben Azai. The problem is we have a Mishnah Megillah. The Mishnah Megillah says, any mitzvah that can be done at night, you could do it Kol Halayim. Says the Gemara, who's this Mishnah coming to include? Achilas Pesach. That you can eat the Carbon Pesach a whole Layla, the Loika Belaz ben Azai. Not like a Belaz ben Azai. So if you're counting on your hands over here, we have Pesachim, Zvachim versus Megillah. So who wins? It's like color war shtickle over here. Who wins? 2 versus 1. Who wins? So we'll see that there's a big machlokes b'shayim who wins and how we machriya. Now, what I want to talk about for a second is the Shitas HaTaisvis and Megillah. Taisvis and Megillah comes out to be machmir like a Belaz ben Azariah, and his argument is because of all these Mishnayos that we quoted. All these Mishnayos that we mentioned, Mishnah Pesachim, Mishnah Zvachim, that gets me to want to paskin like a Belaz ben Azariah. However, the Shar HaMelech points out that that's not the real reason. The Shar HaMelech, again, I'm reading very quickly because there's so much to get to that I want to see inside. The Shar HaMelech says that the reason why Tais is passing like Belaz Ben Azariah is not because of the numbers. It's not a numbers game. Because we have a Gemara in Yivamis that says 1 Stam Mishnah, 2 Stam Mishnah, that's not going to make or break it. And on top of that, we know that when Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva goes up against his friends, who usually wins? Rabbi Akiva. Right?
Only connected the Yochid.
Right, so he's only connected to Belaz Ben Azariah. So the Ran Megillah and Ran Pesachim says that following that Klol Hira, the halacha should be like Rabbi Akiva. But the Shar HaMelech says an interesting yisoid, more for Klol Hira. He says, you know why Taisus passing like Belaz Ben Azariah? Not because of the numbers of the Mishnah, but because of the context of the Mishnah. An interesting idea from the Shar HaMelech. He says we have 3 Mishnayos in Shas, one in Zvachim, one in Pesachim, one in Megillah. The Mishnah in Zvachim was talking about how late you can shech the Korban Pesach. The Mishnah in Pesachim was talking about the status of the Korban Pesach. What was the Mishnah Megillah talking about? The Mishnah Megillah is general. General, all mitzvahs can be done at this hour, mitzvahs done at that hour. Says the Shar HaMelech, when you have a Mishnah that is specifically talking about your case, and on that Mishnah it says halacha kills somebody, that's the right way to go.
It's overriding.
It's overriding, not because it's numbers. I don't care about numbers, I care about what the context of the Mishnah is. Beautiful. Givaldik Rabbi. Let's get into a Rambam. Now we're going to really get into it. I'm on number 17. We're going on speed, like speed dating, speed Maramakamis. Number 17. Now we'll slow down a little bit because this is what we got to get to. Let's take a look. Okay, now we have a Machlokes Rishonim, whether or not we pass like Belaz Ben Azariah or Akiva. Let's read a Rambam. Zok the Rambam Hilchos Chametz Umatzah. One last thing before we jump into this. Everyone at their Seder is saying we got to finish something by Chatzos. What's the something? So based on what we learned, it's the Korban Pesach. So in Mitzvah Shem Heri Yova we'll have Korban Pesach this year, but last year we definitely didn't. So what was everyone Hakana Chainik about last year? So the answer is we have a Gemara in Pesachim. The Gemara says that the matzah is hookish to Korban Pesach. So if matzah is compared to Korban Pesach, just like Korban Pesach can't be eaten after Chatzos, so too the matzah can't be eaten after Chatzos. So now we understand why always there's some guy at the Seder rushing everyone, because he's worried about either Moitzi Matzah or the Afikoimin, because the Afikoimin is Zeichet to the Korban Pesach. Let's see if that's so simple. Let's read a Rambam. Dr. Rambam number 17. This Rambam appears in Hilchos Chametz Umatzah. Dr. Rambam, mitzvah sasei min ha-Torah le'echol matzah b'leil chamishos. There's a mitzvah deraisa to eat matzah on the night of the 15th. Shenema be'erev toichul matzahs. B'chol mokoim, wherever you may be located, or b'chol zman, in any time in history, there's a mitzvah deraisa to eat matzah leil Pesach. Number 17. Says the Rambam, v'loi tova achila zu b'korban Pesach. Number 17. We don't have it? Is it number 17?
Yeah, number 17 is here. You got to turn 2 pages, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's here.
Still doesn't work.
It's here. It's a third
Okay.
third page.
You have 2 17s.
Yeah.
All right, no.
It's on the third page.
17, 18, 19. I got my numbers
Third
right.
page.
You have another page.
Oh, that's not true. You're right. I'm sorry. It's very complicated. I apologize.
I emailed it to the office. I think she just...
I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. So let's read the Rambam. The Rambam says, "V'loi tova achila zu b'korban Pesach." This eating of matzah has nothing to do with Korban Pesach. Elazu mitzvah b'fnei atzma. It's an own independent mitzvah. U'mitzvah soy kol halayla. And it's a mitzvah the whole night. What does that mean? Who is the Rambam passing like? Rabbi Akiva. The Rambam is passing like Rabbi Akiva. So all of us briskers who want to be Rambamniks, so we shouldn't be rushing our Seder. We follow Rambam. The Rambam passes because you have a whole night to eat the matzah. If you have a whole night to eat the matzah, you have a whole night to eat the afikoyim. What the rush? Take your time. Says the Maggid Mishnah. Why did the Rambam pass this way? V'divir Rabbeinu Ikar Darmino Perek Mitzvahs Chalitza Mali Chodos Tama Mali Treis Tama. Says the Maggid Mishnah, don't try to play me the numbers game because it's this Stam Mishnah and that Stam Mishnah. Because the Gemara says Yevamis, 1 Stam Mishnah, 2 Stam Mishnahs. I'm not disposed from that. V'kiva Dikastomi LeRakiva Ular Belazar, and we have Stam Mishnahs both ways. Hadrinon Lechlolim. We go back to the original rule. The Kaimelon Halacha Kerevakiva Mechavere Kach Nirali.
So it's Yochid versus Yochid.
That's right. Zok the Maggid Mishnah. We leave out the background noise. Rebbe Elazar, Rebbe Akiva, end of story. Which comes out according to the Rambam, L'cha'ira. If a guy comes back from Hatzalah Kol El Seder, comes back at 2 a.m., he hasn't yet eaten matzah, he makes a bracha.
No problem.
Makes a bracha. Alachilas matzah. Right, we'll see, Mr. Bruce says not like that. But according to the Rambam, regular matzah gansana. The problem is, Rabbi say, it seems to be a stira to the Rambam and Hilchos Korban Pesach. Why? Zok the Rambam number 19. we only eat the Korban Pesach up till Chatzos, ve'laharchik min aveira, to distance you from aveira. V'din Torah, but really sheyachal kol halayla. Really, it could be eaten a whole night, the Korban Pesach, because we pass like Reb Akiva, ad sheyala amor hashachar, ukvar biyarnu behilchos chametz umatz. So why is this a problem? Why didn't the Rambam say in Hilchos Matzah they should only eat the matzah until Chatzos? Kedei laharchik. If the Rambam paskins like Reb Akiva, that you have a whole night, and still the Rambam paskins that you have to stop by Chatzos because of those people who procrastinate, why did the Rambam say that by matzah? Why only by Korban Pesach? Huh? Okay, so it could be because the Gaza Korban Pesach is on. Well, no, the matzah is the rice, and the matzah is hookish to Korban Pesach. And if we compare the rules to the rules, so frek the Achronim, why did the Rambam, when he came to matzah, he gives you the whole night, but when the Rambam came to Korban Pesach, he cuts you off at Chatzos? So Dr. Yeager, your brother told me a diak. I say over from your brother. He said, look at the end of the Rambam number 19. What did the Rambam say? Kedei laharchik min aveira.
Right, just the harchaka.
By matzah, if you don't eat matzah before Chatzos, are you over an aveira? It's a bittul mitzvah. So when it's a shaila of aveira, then the Rambam says we got to stop by Chatzos. We can't take chances. But by matzah, there's no aveira.
By Pesach.
No, by matzah. By matzah, there's no aveira.
Right.
So worst case scenario, you don't get it before Chatzos. No, bittul mitzvah saseh. It's nishkan aveira. So the Rambam Shita Kinira is that when do we put up this big barrier and make you stop before Chatzos? Where if you don't do it before Chatzos, you can come to an aveira. But when it comes to matzah, matzah is nishkan aveira. It's a bittul mitzvah saseh. Therefore, the Rambam didn't put up such a big fence.
Pesach again, it risks chorus. So
That's Korban Pesach. So that's why by Korban Pesach, you only have till Chatzos. But by Matzah, we can in the whole, we're not worried.
Now, what does the Rambam pass when Matava say Yadayim? I assume you get.
Oh, one second, I got a bigger kash.
Okay.
We have another Rambam. Take a look in the third Rambam, Hilchos Kriyas Shema. Zok the Rambam, Eze Uzman Kriyas Shema b'layla. When is the proper time to say Kriyas Shema at night? Mitzvosoi mishas yitzias hakechovim ad chatzi alayla. You have from Tzeis until Chatzos to say Kriyas Shema. And if you said Kriyas Shema after Alois HaShachar, it's also okay. Because we paskin that Kriyas Shema can be said up till the morning. But Zok the Rambam, but we still put up a fence. We put up a fence and we said that even though technically you can say Kriyas Shema up until the morning, we want to stop it at Chatzos, because we're afraid that people will not get to it before Chatzos. Oh, 1 second. Just here in Rambam. By matzah is a mitzvah. Kriyas Shema is a mitzvah. Why by matzah does the Rambam give you the whole morning, and by Kriyas Shema he stops you at nighttime? So the teretz that I said before was the difference between matzah and Korban Pesach, because Korban Pesach had an Isser involved. But Kriyas Shema is a mitzvah. Matzah is oichet a mitzvah. They're the same playing field. So why does one Rambam say we got to stop you at Chatzos when it comes to Kriyas Shema, and by matzah the Rambam lets you go until the next morning? That's a problem. So again, even if we got out of the first Rambam with Korban Pesach, we got ourselves now stuck into the problem of Kriyas Shema. Because the diak is a gavaldik diak, right? The harchik min aveir is true, but Kriyas Shema is also not an aveir. Kriyas Shema is also a mitzvah. So the kasha that we now have is, according to the Rambam, why must I stop saying Kriyas Shema before Chatzos, but I can eat matzah after Chatzos? That's the kasha. So Nachadiak, look at the end of this Rambam number 20. What does he say? Interesting nusach. To stop a person from being negligent. What does the Rambam mean? So if you take a look on the next page, I don't know where exactly it's going to be on your sheets, but it's a Beis Halevi in number 1.
Flip it over.
So the Beis Halevi asks a steer in Rambam. Frank the Beis Halevi, that there's a steer in the Rambam. The Rambam in Hilchos Chometz Matzah says you can eat matzah until the morning. We're not worried about negligence. But when it comes to Kriyas Shema, then we are worried about negligence. What's the difference? Says the Beis Halevi, very Geshmak Teretz. He writes number 1. U'kemoikin lo koshel hepech laharamam de pasak melchas Kriyas Shema l'chatchila tzorich l'krois hakoyin b'chatzos. Harry di also bos yog. They made a barrier. Im ken amay kasev gan gabi matzah des manakol alayla. Why by matzah there's no barrier before chatzos? The Yeshloim Azok, the Beis Halevi, the Svila, the Rak, the Kriyas Shema Osus Yog, Kiven the Havi b'chol yoyim chashosh Hashem yipash. He says Kriyas Shema is every day. Every day, day in, day out, 7 days a week. We're afraid that people will not get around to it if they don't take care of it right away. Aval b'matzah lo chashashu. Matzah is a one a night. It's not like something we do every night. We do this once, right? Especially in Eretz Yisrael, it's one time. So there we're not so nervous. You're going to dilly-dally and not get to it. Even though you can argue, the guy's having such a long magid, he's taking all this time, it's Agoda, maybe he won't get to it. But Zakti, Beis HaLevi, very practical. He says, buying matzah, there's less of a chashash that you won't get to it. As opposed to Kriya Shema, where it's nightly, where it's a daily occurrence, there's a larger chashash.
Basically, we're going to be hyper vigilant on matzah.
That's right.
Once a year.
He says, and that's why he brings a right from the Magen Avram. And the Magen Avram says, same thing with Megillah. Why we pass that Megillah, you can read Megillah the whole night. And we're not worried, we don't cut you off at Chatzos. Why? He says, because it's so chaviv. You're not going to dilly-dally. We're not worried. Now, according to this Beis HaLevi, it's very meduyik, that Rambam that I just read to you. What did the Rambam say? Kedei laharchik adam min hapshiyah. It's beautiful. It's so meduyik. We're not worried about negligence. We're not worried about bad people. We're worried about pshiyah. Pshiyah is when it's every night you can lead to pshiyah. When it's something which is once in a while, there's no pshiyah. As I learned at the Beis HaLevi. The Pri Yitzchak of Yitzchak Blazer, he has a different mahalach, and his mahalach is also very geshmak. He says very pashut. He says by Kriya Shema, you know what we're afraid of? You're going to eat supper, and you're going to go to bed. You're never going to get to Kriya Shema. He says, but what are we worried about Leil Seder? Like, where are you going Leil Seder that you're not going to eat the
We're
matzah?
staying put anyway.
Like, the full, first of all, we all know, we're all starving when it gets to Seder. Like, we can't wait to get to that matzah. Right? That karpas tastes so good because we're starving, right? Like, our whole mind is on that matzah. So I'm giving you some blazer. I'm not worried that you're not going to get to that matzah. It's what you're focused on. It's what you're thinking about. But on a regular night, Kriya Shema is very late, so you come home from work, you eat your supper, you take a nap, and next thing you know, you miss Kriya Shema. Therefore, says Rabbi Yitzchak Blazer, from out of a practical standpoint, he suggests that that's the difference between Kriya Shema and matzah. Okay.
Which sefer is it? Is it a Bitterburger?
The Pri Yitzchak.
Chuvas?
Yeah, he has Chuvas in the Pri Yitzchak. Shirat Oil Gavaldik Amaisa because it was with the Beis HaLevi. There was once a convention with the Beis HaLevi and Yitzchak Blazer, and someone threw out a kasha, and no one said any answers. So the Beis HaLevi piped up with one answer from his own and an answer from his son Reb Chaim. And he was very upset that Yitzchak Blazer didn't say anything. Why was he so quiet? Like, why was he so quiet? So after the event was over, Beis HaLevi went home and he opened up the Pri Yitzchak, and he saw that both those terutzim were found in the Pri Yitzchak. And Yitzchak Blazer knew those terutzim. He didn't want to say that. He was humble. He didn't want to say the terutzim. But they're already in the sefer. Okay, so the Pri Yitzchak, Yitzchak Blazer, as we know him very often as a Bal Musar, but he was a Gavaldik Rav, and he wrote Shas and Shuvas. Okay, now we got to tackle another issue. Another issue that we need to talk about is halacha l'maisa for a second. Halacha l'maisa. How late can a person eat matzah b'leil Pesach? Now again, you can eat matzah anytime you want. The shayla is, are you going to get a mitzvah? And we have a very small window to do this mitzvah. If you're in Eretz Yisrael, you have one night. You have one night to eat the matzah. There's one mitzvah deraisa, the eating matzah b'leil Pesach. And how much time do you have? So you have, according to Blaz Bezai, up to Chatzos. According to Bekiva, you have the whole next morning. But let's take a look at number 5 in the Shulchan Aruch. Very fascinating. The Shulchan Aruch is in Simon Taf Ayin Zayin. Taf Ayin Zayin is the Hilchas of Afikoyim. Writes the Mechaber. La'achar gemar kol hasuda, after you finish the whole meal, oichlim mimatzah hashmur tachas hamape, you eat from the guarded matzah that was under the cloth. Kezayis, eat a kezayis, kol echad zeicher lepesach, hanechel halasayim. We all know that Afikoyim is eaten as a zeicher to the Korban Pesach. Because I mentioned that the word Afikoyim is not a Hebrew word. Rabbi Weinzatzel was very, very into this. That the word Afikoyim is not a Hebrew word. It's a Greek word. It's not a Zishkin Hebrew word. It was because during Bayesheni there was so much. What?
Some Epicurean.
Yeah. It's not a Hebrew word. So you can look around. It doesn't even sound Hebrew. Afikoman. It doesn't sound like that Jewish word. So it's not even a Hebrew word. It was a Greek word that made its way into our vernacular during that time in Jewish history. But either way, so the Afikoyim is eaten. Is a zeicher to the Korban Pesach. V'yachlanu b'seibah v'lo yivarach alav. Here's the kicker. V'hizoyer lo oichloi koydem chatzos. You should be careful to eat it before chatzos. What does that mean? You should be careful. So some Rishonim have this text of saying, well, listen, it's machlokes. I don't know who we paskin. So if you don't know who you paskin, like what's the safest bet? Eat it before chatzos. That's the safest.
Easiest.
Right. It sounds like from the Mechaber that's not makif. He says v'yizar. He doesn't say v'ya asur. So it sounds like from the Mechaber that you should try to eat it before chatzos, but if you can't, no, not the end of the world. What's interesting to me is, why doesn't the Shulchan Aruch talk about eating matzah before chatzos? He only talks about Afikoyim. What about matzah? Afikoyim is the zeicher to Korban Pesach. What about matzah? Matzah is din deraisa. I want to know if the guy goes on Atzala call and he comes back after chatzos, what does he do with mitzvah matzah? Mechaber never talks about it. Not only does Mechaber never talk about it, the Torah never talks about it. The only one we saw talked about it was the Rambam. The Rambam sounds like, according to the Rambam, a guy comes back after Hatzalah call 2 o'clock in the morning, he makes a moitzi matzah, no problem. But according to the Shulchan Aruch, I'm not so sure what do you do. What's this lashon v'yizor lo?
The korban is after the regular matzah. It goes zero, so this is about the
So Pashup Shad is it's b'chal masayim on it, right? Because it's impossible to eat if you're eating the afikoymin before chatzos. It means you're eating moitzi matzah before chatzos. But it still bothers me.
That's your matzah.
Right? It's still a shtickle funny that the Mechaber never addresses it
Can it count as
specifically.
both?
Huh?
Can it count as both? Meaning a guy comes home from a tzala call,
Yeah.
a minute before chatzos, he has time to eat his kazayas of matzah.
Right.
Can he count his?
Pasha does not. It has to be a separate matzah. We're glad to talk about the Mishnah Berurah has a whole schedule. What happens with that guy who comes back from that Hatzal 5 minutes before Chatzos? He's got a lot of things to get to. He's got Kiddush, he's got Morah, he's got Dalakai, he's got a lot to get to. So Mishnah Berurah says he should get to Matzah, Afikoymin, and Magi will get to after. As I talked to Mishnah Berurah. So what is this Lashon v'yizor? Is this a yes, is this a no? So if you go through the Mishnah Berurah, the Ber Halacha, again, we don't have time to get to it right now, he's pretty clear that this whole conversation is Suffolk. It's all Suffolk. We don't know for sure who we paskin like. Do we paskin like Abelaz ben Zayed? Do we paskin like Akiva? So we always have a great rule in Judaism called Suffolk Brachas Lahaka. Eating matzah, there's no downside. There's no downside to eat matzah after Chatzos. What's the downside? You'll have indigestion the next morning. There's no downside. Bracha, no, so Suffolk Brachas Lahaka. The problem is, there are certain people that they don't like not making a bracha. Makes them feel very uncomfortable. Especially if you live in Eretz, so you got one night to do this. Right? This is your one chance, you know. You go back on that tzala call, you save a life, and you come back to like, sorry, no bracha on the matzah. Like you feel a little gypped.
You'll take the mitzvah anyway.
Avad, 100% you're doing mitzvah. Try to
Making a
explain.
moitzi.
I agree with you. You know, I have this shaila a lot. There's a big shaila in the paiskim, contemporary paiskim. If a lady's in the hospital, let's say, for example, she has a baby. So if she lights the electric lights, does she make a bracha? Big deal in the contemporary rabban. So what I found over my years is a lot of women, if you tell them light without a bracha, they feel very uncomfortable. They push feel like they're not doing the mitzvah. So you tell them, oh, you mean mitzvah's not brachas, not ma'akiv, it's all wonders, it's great. But they don't feel good. They really don't. Push bothers them. So over the years, I've learned that for them, it's kedai to be samech on those paiskim, which there are a list of paiskim that say you could make a bracha on electric lights. For the men, they'd have no problem skipping the bracha. The men are like, yeah, no problem. Let's get the bracha, no problem. But I'm telling you, it's a mamish.
Look for flexibility.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the mamish that they get very disturbed. It's very troublesome to them. They're not making a bracha. Like they feel like this is like like half baked. So let's say you have a yid who says, "Posh, I feel half baked, but not making achilas matzah." So I found the Moiridige Chiddush, the Sefer Yisrael v'Hazmanim. Yisrael v'Hazmanim is written by Satmar Dayan, Rabbi Harfinis, lives in Williamsburg, and he quotes from the Yisraelis B'Tshuva. The Yisraelis B'Tshuva was an Einikah from the Chassam Sofer. He was Nebuch. He was killed in 44. He was an Hungarian rough for many years. Alta Yid was in his 90s when he died. He was killed. He was murdered. He was sent to Auschwitz right away at the beginning of the Hungarian deportation. I think it was 94 when he died. He was an Einikah from the Chassam Sofer. He wrote Shas Judah Yisraelis B'Tshuva. Beautiful tshuvas. And he has a Gavaldige Chiddush. He has a Chiddush that he thinks that the Shulchan Aruch passes like Rabbi Akiva. The Shulchan Aruch passes like Rabbi Akiva. Now, if the Shulchan Aruch passes like Rabbi Akiva, it's a Gavaldik. So if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, you can eat it after Chatzos. And Zok, Rabbi Harfin is you can even make a bracha. You can even make a bracha nach Chatzos. And therefore, Rabbi Harfin writes a Chiddush. He suggests and he believes that if someone comes back after Chatzos and they really want to make the bracha, yesh ami lismach to make the bracha. Again, I would say yesh ami lismach the Rambam. I would tell the guy, if you are a real brisker, you keep all the brisker chumras, keep this brisker also. Before your Rambam. The Rambam says we pass on like Rabbi Akiva. If we pass on like Rabbi Akiva, go for it. Yeah. I'm saying, I would use it.
This makes sense, because if the Mechaber passes Rabbi Lezer, it wouldn't just be Yizoher, it would be you can't.
Right? Now, why would it be Yizoher? Because it could be, according to Akiva, we want to make our chaka.
That's not like the Rambam.
And therefore like the Rambam. Zok Rabbi Harfin is, he likes this better. Because he doesn't like that the Mechaber is not following the Rambam and the Rosh and the other Rishonim. So therefore, Zok Rabbi Harfin is, he thinks that the Mechaber is Takapas like Rabbi Akiva.
Right.
Again, the Sharish B'Tshuva says this already. And therefore, he suggested in his Sefer, he would tell people who come back after Chatzos, and again, Mishnah Berurah is not like that. If you look at the Mishnah Berurah, it does not say that. And I don't think Rabbanim would tell people to do this. I think that, I know my community, we have the Hatzalah, we send out the halachas before Pesach. I think on those halachas it says, if you come back after Chatzos, you eat matzah without a bracha. Which again, is very safe. It's the safest response you can give. But he wants to tell alum that he thinks the Mechaber holds like Rabbi Akiva. And if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, they can even make a bracha. Very gishmak. Okay. Debatable, but very gishmak nonetheless. But the last piece of the puzzle that we need to get to is like this. What else do I have to be makban on chatzos for the seder? So good. So you have that guest at the table is rushing everyone to get maitzi matzah. So maitzi matzah, most of us get before chatzos. That's pretty safe. Then the next thing is the guy rushes you to get to afikayim. So I'm going to share with the olam another thing you can rush people in your house if you're doing it for the right reasons at least. There's a murdik machloikish b'shainim. What about halal? Does halal need to be done before chatzos also? Halal before chatzos. Why on earth should halal have to be done before chatzos? What do we have so far?
The
We have
halal is linked to the cover Pesach.
okay, good. So let's see. If you turn to whatever is considered the last page over here in this booklet, number 12, Ranim Psachim. Right there. Ranim Psachim. The Ranim Psachim writes the following chiddush. Zok the Ran, the Fichach Tzarech Lizor V'lechel Koyim Chatzos Matzah Shel Afikoyim, V'afilu B'kriyas HaHalal Hechmiru B'toises L'Kroisim Koyim Chatzos. Zok the Ran, that Toismus holds, you have to get the halal before Chatzos also. So if you're looking to move your Seder along, you tell the Olam your Seder, no, it's a Ran Psachim, says you have to finish halal before Chatzos. The Ran says it's a Toismus. There's only one problem. There is no such Toismus. Not only is there no such Toismus, Toismus actually says the exact opposite. If you take a look at number 13, Toismus writes, V'im kein tzorech l'mar lechol matzah b'lo psachim koydim chatzos, v'afilu matzah shel afikoyim sharichiv matzah b'zazeh havadei raisa, avo b'halal shel achar afikoyim ein lahachmir kol kach. You don't have to be so firm about the chatzos. Sharei midrabanan hu. It's only midrabanan. So
Sar Esav? Is it because Esav, Sar had to go back up before Chatzos to say halal?
Maybe there's some connection. We got to figure this
It's
out.
only the first half of halal.
Oh.
This far. Halal shel achar afikoyim. That's already the halal when we finish
The second half. Good.
So you the halal that's linked to that Pesach, there's the chatzia halal.
Good.
You say first.
So therefore he's saying you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it before chatzos.
I mean, the part that we get up to.
And the part that the second half of halal you don't have to be done before chatzos.
Right.
Only one problem, Rabbi. Say, look at the Ramon Shulchan Aruch. Number 14 says the Ramah, "V'yaktim atzmoi shegam halal yikra kodim chatzos."
The God says
It's a Ramon Shulchan Aruch. This is this is already a Ramon Shulchan Aruch. Now we got a problem. The Ramon says in Shulchan Aruch, he's supposed to be maktim the halal before chatzos also. Frag the Aruch HaShulchan, number 15. ועל מה שכוסף שירא לאכול אפיקויים קודם לחצויס כוסף רבינו רמו שייקתם עצמוי שגם הלאה יקרו קודם לחצויס ואיני יודע טעם לזה. Frag the Aruch HaShulchan, I do not understand why. Dema in yonoi tahalal lachatzois. What does halal have to do with chatzos? Chatzos is a din by Korban Pesach. It's a din by matzah because matzah is hookish to Korban Pesach, and it's a din by afikoyim, which is a zeicher to Korban Pesach. What does that have to do with halal?
They said the halal would come a Pesach.
Oh, good. We'll see.
That's got to be the
Oh,
link.
right. But the question is, why did the Aruch HaShulchan know this? It seems like
he's as smart as me.
it's funny. Your brother also said this teretz. He's mechaber the same teretz as you. Good. Let's take a look at the goyim.
It's very good.
Let's read the goyim. Zok the goyim. V'yaktim b'shvil kois dalid.
So that's another story.
Whoa! Zok the goyim. You're right. Halal doesn't need chatzos. The fourth cup needs chatzos. Halal, I don't care about the chatzos. The Aruch HaShulchan's kash. But the dalid koises, and then he's mitzayin to tof ayin beis ches. What's going on instead of tof ayin beis ches? It tells you that you have to drink the dalid kois al seder, which means you can't skip cups. If you can't skip cups, you got to go in order. If you're going to go in order, that means you got to have the fourth cup after halal. Zok the gra, therefore you can't. You have to say halal before chatzos, not because of the halal, but because of the dalid kois.
That's like a goyim roll of
Oh, that's taken the pshat.
That's the lashon, right?
But here's the kasha Rabbi said. First of all, we just built in another chumrah now, or cool, depending on how you look at it. You got to finish all 4 cups before. And in fact, if you look in certain svarim, they're right. You're supposed to finish all 4 cups before halal, before chatzos. Where do they get it from? This is Vilna Goyim. Which, if it's a Vilna Goyim, it's really a Ramon Shulchan Aruch. So if you want to read
this, now you're rushing the meal.
That's right.
That people that they don't like
Right.
much.
Now, if you want to do this, if you want to follow Ramon Shulchan Aruch, you got to finish all 4 cups. Nirtza, you can sing Nirtza later. Good. But you got to finish all 4 cups, which includes halal, before chatzos. The kasha on the goyin is, why? Why does the daled koises have connected to chatzos? We come to daled koises to chatzos. Again, we slept halal in, and now we slept the daled koises in.
Right.
Where did all these things come to chatzos? Chatzos is a din in Korban Pesach, it's a din in matzah, it's a din in afikoyim. Now we slept it into daled koises, and now we're going to schlep it in to halal also. So I think the teretz to this goyin is the beginning of the Seder. Right? We all know that the beginning of the Seder is the one time we can't start right away. Right? I remember when my parents first moved to Cedarhurst, I lived in Cedar Bay Park about 30 years ago. So at that time it wasn't like it is today. It wasn't as firm as it was. It was more non-religious Jews. I Remember, Erev Pesach, 6 o'clock, I never saw the block so packed up. All the non-religious Jews, they all came for Pesach Seder at 6 o'clock. I said to my parents, Kavod, let's start the Seder at 6 o'clock also. Right? It's against the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch said you can't start so early. Why you have to wait till it's Vadei Laila? Why? So I got a discussion, the Taisis Mesachim, the whole read. But one of the answers is because of this hookish to the Karban Pesach. So if you're going to be makish it to what time you start, you got to be makish to what time you end also. If I can't start the Seder before Chatzos, I can't end the Seder after Chatzos either.
Yeah, before dark.
If I can't start before Chatzos, I can't end before Chatzos. So all of us that are makbid gomer, all of us are. I haven't heard of anyone who starts, if I just said as a shtickle Torah maybe, but all of us don't start the Seder before Chatzos. Then we should have to finish it
Unless
before
we
Chatzos.
pass on Rabbi Kiva, you still have all that.
Unless you're like a Akiva, right. But if we assume not like a Akiva, so then it's very gishmak what the Goyin is saying. The ganze Seder from Sukkot to Nos has to be done before Chatzos. But the Kaf HaChaim has a different suggestion. The Kaf HaChaim says that the reason why you have to have Challah before Chatzos is linked to the Karban Pesach. Because when they ate the Karban Pesach, what did they do? Zogt Halal. So the Halal is connected to the Karban Pesach. If the Halal is connected to the Karban Pesach, attack needs to be done before Chatzos. Which means according to the Kaf HaChaim, there's nothing to do with the Dal Kaisis.
Right.
Which means there's enough community between the Kaf HaChaim and the Gra. According to the Gra, it's a din Dal Kaisis. According to the Kaf HaChaim, it's a din in Halal, it's a din in Karban Pesach. Last piece of the puzzle. Now I know it's getting late already.
It's very clear. I mean, Dayan Harfness versus the Vilna Gaon. It's a Litvish thing versus a Hasidic thing. I mean,
Avada, 100%. Again, if someone knocked on my door the first night of Pesach and told me he missed matzah because he was on a tzolkol, should he make a bracha? I would tell him absolutely not. Mr. Bruce says up and down not to make a bracha. I wouldn't tell him to make a bracha. The last piece of puzzle, what about Magid? So the Minchas Chinuch says, weiter. If your machoikis of Elazar ben Azai and Akiva is by all parts, what do we say in the Haggadah? B'shoshi yesh matzah moim luch mechanecha. Therefore, zok di Minchas Chinuch, you don't have a chiyuv of Sibli Tis Mitzrayim, according to Elazar ben Azai, only up to Chatzos and not after Chatzos. Frek the Emek Bracha, frek the Stipler. Now we'll make some drushim. What do we say in the Haggadah? I said Elazar ben Azai and Akiva shoyim zubin Ebrag, by Misabim Kalalayla, frek the Stipler. Elazar ben Azai, what was he doing? He should have went to bed already. It's not Chatzos.
So he's in Rabbi Kiva's town.
That's the Stipler's teretz.
Oh, really?
Before it's on the page, take a look. So the Stipler in Brachas,
Mechaber did this yesterday.
the Stipler asks his kasha. Frek the Stipler, I don't understand. What are they so busy doing? There's no mitzvah, go home. So the Emek Bracha gives two terutzim and the Stipler gives two terutzim. I'm not going to read all of them because it's already past my allotted time over here, but if you take a look on the left side of the page, number 20 is the kasha from the Emek Bracha, and he gives one teretz. He says, "V'tzarich loymar, da de shtat if imon besipur achat says lav mishum mitzvah sibis mitzrayim shalis alaylo, el mishum mitzvah zechira shel kol hasham." He said, "Echnami." After,
It's worth mentioning.
right,
It's like,
he went all out.
mitzvah, it's like-
Da b'chol shana ikar chiyuv lahaskas zayim yom v'layla.
Is a second. It's not Mustafa.
So he doesn't like this pshat. He rejects this pshat.
Yeah.
He says, "Ach yesh litchos." The other sipur b'tzis b'am kalalay lav mishum mitzvah sipur el mishum dechiyuv lahasik b'chas chag b'pay. He wants to tell a different pshat. And this is always my favorite thing. You look all over Shulchan Aruch, all over the Rambam. It says nowhere to stay up Shavuos night. It doesn't say it anywhere. The first place it says to stay up Shavuos night is the Magen Avraham. Magen Avraham, the Gimel Chashvuos says, yesh nizarin, yesh mechasidim who stay up all Shavuos night. Steht in the Rambam, steht in Shulchan Aruch, he's supposed to stay up the whole night Pesach until Chotz v'Shinasim. Why are there more people staying up Shavuos night than Pesach night? So the Pasha of the Teretz is because Pesach night, I have to say it, it's Chotz v'Shinasim. You collapse. So Zok the Emek Bracha, that's the pshat. He wasn't doing it to be Mekayim the mitzvah of Sibri Tis Mitzrayim. He was doing Mekayim this din of Chotz v'Shinasai, that's what he wanted to do. I say Zok the Emek Bracha. But the Stipler gives two other terutzim. One teretz the Stipler says, we just mentioned earlier, was because he was in Rabbi Akiva's neighborhood. And that's what we mentioned where the story takes place, right? All the Mepharshim talk about. Why isn't it details for us to know where they were sitting? Shayim Mesumim neighbor. What was giving on where they're sitting? Right? So today, Grada, unfortunately, we need to know different parts of Eretz Yisrael, safer, less safe. You have to know where they are, where they're located. But then, says the Stipler, because he was in Rabbi Akiva's city. And out of reverence for Rabbi Akiva, he was knowing like Rabbi Akiva, which itself is a Gavaldik and Moshe Shmuz of how Gedolim treat each other. Then the Stipler gives the second teretz, and he says, a new teretz. He says that no, that the rules of Sibri Yitzias Mitzrayim is that Takonim Yuched, the Kashachal of Amitzvah of Sibri Mitzrayim, Ozi Yamar B'Zek Chosha Efsher. He wants to tell you that part of Sibri is even after the Zman Achiv. Continue going, keep talking, keep discussing it, even though according to Elazar ben Azai, the mitzvah deraisa ends as a mitzvah derabbanan to continue. As I learned this type. So therefore it's not a kash on the story, so it comes out that Magid, but it's against the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah says if you're up against the clock, do matzah, morer, and do magid after chatzos. Is it possible to
The whole mark of the soccer is really just
Correct.
Din Rabbanan.
That's right.
Additional Din
That's how the
Rabbanan
Stipel learns it.
outside the confines
Correct.
of the regular mitzvah.
That's right. According to the Stipel, it's Takanas the Rabbanan Miuchedes outside the context of the mitzvah. Okay, everybody, so thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful, wonderful Yom Tov.
Presumably.